people were already giving me shit. Like, oh my God, another fucking suicide attempt. Like, I'm like, motherfucker, like, you're a professional and you're giving me shit for wanting to kill myself. Like, fuck you.
Hey there, my name is Sean, and this is Suicide Noted. On this podcast, I talk with suicide attempt survivors so that we can hear their stories. Every year around the world, millions of people try to take their own lives, and we almost never talk about it. We certainly don't talk about it enough. And when we do talk about it, many of us, including me, we are not very good at it. So one of my goals with this podcast is to have more conversations, and hopefully better conversations with attempt survivors. I want to thank everybody who has joined me here on this podcast since we launched in the summer of 2020, and to everybody who listens, thank you. If you are a suicide attempt survivor and you'd like to talk, please reach out. hello@suicidenoted.com, on Facebook or Twitter @suicidenoted. And should you have an interest in getting more involved or participate in new ways, check the show notes. You will see some opportunities there that may pique your interest, including our membership, which is still relatively new. It comes with some perks, and we could use the support. Keep in mind, our main goal here is not only to have these kinds of conversations, but to have them so that more people in more places hopefully feel a little less shitty and a little less alone. One additional way you can do that right now, if you listen on Apple, is to rate and review this podcast. It really does help people find it, and as you know, we want more people to find it. And remember, we're talking about suicide on this podcast. We know it's not a good fit for everybody, so take that into account before as you listen. But I do hope you listen because there is so much to learn. Today I'm talking with Craig. Craig lives in Rhode Island, and he is a suicide attempt survivor. Hey, Craig.
Hey, it's good to finally meet you, Sean, and also put a face to you.
Gee, thanks, man. All right, just fair warning, I'm in a shitty fucking mood, but it's not going to be directed at you.
Honestly, same, so...
All right, great.
Good, yeah.
Let's just keep it real. By the way, what is behind you? I see it. It's skeleton?
Yeah, it's pentacle. I got two skeletons, yeah.
Those skeletons, I believe, are kissing.
Yes, yeah. My girlfriend likes it a lot. I live with my girlfriend, so.
Got it. Does she know about that we're talking?
Yeah, actually, she's the only person that I told. She's also one of the only people I know, too, so.
Craig, by the way, where are you?
I currently live in Rhode Island. I'm originally from Mass, though. I grew up there. I'm only a couple months into Rhode Island, so.
Don't believe I've ever had a guest in Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. Oh, wow. Hey. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I listen to the podcast. I'm a fan, if you will. So, but yeah, it's just seeing where everyone comes from. It's astonishing, you know, not just from the States, but just, you know, having people from countries that they don't even teach us about here, you know.
You have to be very active to try to find out about those places.
Yeah.
It's happening in schools.
Yeah. Geography nerds, you know.
So you'd said that you live with your girlfriend.
Yes.
And she, I imagine, is a pretty big part of your life.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of friends. I don't have I mean, I have, you know, my family members are alive and well as far as I know. But I am not close to them at all. Like a lot of people that you interview and everything, you know, dealing with this subject matter, whether it's suicide or just depression in general. The term black sheep is like, it's like a joke at this point, you know.
It could be another color to express it's more than black.
Yeah, you know, it's like, oh, who's that guy? Yeah, you know, he's got long hair. He's got those jeans, and he's also the black sheep, you know. So it's just something that I'm just so used to hearing or thinking about, or.
Yeah, I believe there was a very popular television show called Orange is the New Black.
Never watched it. I'm not a big TV guy.
A lot of people hearing this will know it. Took place in a prison. I'm just saying, if orange is the new black and we embrace that, then you might be an orange sheep in Rhode Island.
I like colors. Colors are cool.
All right. So Craig in Rhode Island.
Sean Wellington from Suicide Noted.
Yes, sir. So let's talk. You, how many suicide attempts do you have?
I fall under the category of I have no fucking clue at this point because it's just been such an abundant thing. You kind of lose track. after so many hospitalizations and so many like just crazy shit.
So multiple attempts, lost track, multiple hospitalizations, lost track.
If I can really go back and think, probably first attempt. Yeah, I mean, a pretty typical time, I guess, for people like 13, 14. I'm unique, I think, in this kind of sense because I am the oddball. I've never planned anything. Never. I've never written a note. I've never planned anything. It's always just been like, okay, now. You know what I mean? Like it's very like just 0 or 100 for me. It's like
Mm,
I'm operating, I'm living, I'm existing. X, Y, and Z happens. X ain't so bad. Y is super crazy, and Z is pretty bad. And then you're just by yourself or in public, and you just start freaking out. That's my history. I'm a freaker outer.
yeah. And so you're saying when you say you freak out, those don't all lead to suicide attempts, I assume, or those are those the attempts?
Yeah, yeah, I'd say those are the attempts. I'm also I have an extensive history with self-harm. I don't want to trigger nobody or nothing, but I've gone to the extent where I probably should have gone to the hospital many times for certain self-injurious behavior, not just for admission, but like holy shit, I should probably get stitches or something.
Right.
Yeah, I'm brutal when it comes to hurting myself. Beyond cutting, there's been times where I've given myself concussions,
Okay.
smacking my head against things and punching myself or this or that.
Do you have any idea why you self harm?
Oh yeah, because a lot of life sucks, and a lot of life we have, or that we live, a lot of things are out of our control. I think I grew up in an environment up until 12. I was a very sickly child. I had like health problems, physical ones, but the depression and everything really started around when my parents split, which is typical for a lot of people. My adolescence was extremely chaotic. I lived with my mom after my parents split. She just, it was right at the time of 2008, so everything was crashing. Everyone was broke. Parents were together for 20 years. It was a brutal divorce. I mean, like, I feel like everyone, to an extent, has had some level of physical altercation, whether it was like, in adolescence or this or that. But I saw more fighting at home than I did ever like on a playground or with my friends or anything like that.
Just between the parents or other people in the family?
Everybody. I mean, my parents would go fucking ape shit at each other, and then one would storm off. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but like, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I'm about to throw everyone under the bus.
Sure.
My mom is mainly like the parent that dealt most of the physical trauma, whereas my dad was more of the emotional. Uh,
Ooh.
yeah,
Do you think if we could somehow know this, that's slightly in the minority of?
it tends to be the opposite.
I don't know. We assume that, does it?
I grew up in a fucking redneck town. So take every typical like, redneck dad standard,
Mm-hmm.
tough, no emotion, like watches Fox News all day, like that was my mom. He's never told me this. I've had siblings tell me this and I've had other people in my family kind of hint of it, but I believe my dad's actually bisexual. And not that that means anything, you can swing any way, shape, or form, and you can be whatever it is you are. But my dad is like super gentle. It kind of sucks that we don't have a relationship because like he's a great dude, but like when it comes to emotional anything, it's just like out the window. He's such a sweet dude. He's super gentle. He's just such a good person. But when it
Yeah.
comes to emotional intensity, not just with me, I mean, none of my siblings talk to my dad. Not because of not because he was like crazy or anything, but just because any emotional problem, he just didn't know how to handle. So he doesn't know how to communicate, like at all.
How many siblings are we talking about?
I got the oldest is my sister. I got an older brother. I'm the middle child or second middle child, and then I got a younger brother. We're all adults. I'm 28 for reference.
Mom was mom, dad was dad, and at 12 or 13, things change for you. You try for the first time, and there'll be many more. We're not going to get into each and every one, but I'm
Yeah.
especially curious when there are multiple about the first and the most recent. So take us to the first one, if you would.
The first one, I started to habitually cut. I would just be coming home from school, or I'd even be at school. I'd go in the bathroom, and this is, like divorce doesn't happen overnight. Leading up to a divorce, sometimes it can take years. So my parents were unhappy with each other for like at least 2 or 3 years before the divorce. So like you're always walking on eggshells as a kid, you know what I mean? Naturally, because you're just new to the world. But then you go home where it's supposed to be hunky dory, or at least.
That shit fucks you up, Craig.
Yeah, yeah,
And
it
like
does.
it gets in your system, and I don't think it ever leaves.
Nah, we'll eventually get to all the whole diagnosis stuff, but CPTSD or whatever, complex childhood, blah blah blah. Yeah, all the fun mumbo jumbo. So I would habitually cut, but it wouldn't be anything that would warrant not psych, like I mean physically. Like I never lost consciousness or anything like that. But it was frequent enough, very much became my coping mechanism for any kind of stress. Again, at 12 years old, you only know so much. So like any stress that you're having that's beyond just normal 12-year-old stuff, you're kind of just like, oh, you're dumbfounded. You don't know how to cope. That was my method of doing it. And what led me to the real first big one actually is after the divorce, seventh grade. I was hanging out with a friend at my house. Super, super stupid. I mean, my mom is like, she's so fucking irrational, man. She should have been on some kind of something because she was in a state of psychosis for like years, it seemed. She came at me while I was hanging out with my friend. We're just playing video games, and she smacks me up like on the head because I guess I was failing math or some stupid shit, and she was like pissed that she had to hire a tutor. She's freaking out at me, like saying I'm stupid, all this shit. She's like smacking me up the head, all while my friend's there, just dumb 13-year-olds. We don't know anything. So he's like, I'm gonna leave. And then he just leaves, like right in the middle of her like screaming at me. And then I started screaming at her, and I was just like, are you serious? Like you just not only did you just smack me in front of my friend, you drove him out of our house. He lives down the road. He's gonna go tell his parents that like, yo, I'm not gonna hang out with Craig anymore because his mom's fucking crazy. I was just like, what the fuck's wrong with you? You know what I mean? And she snapped, and she grabbed me by the neck, slammed me against the wall, drywall. I left a nice imprint, my shoulder, my back, or something. I kick her off. I'm in a panic, so I run out to our front porch, and small porch, two little pot plants on the edges. I kick one because I'm just like, fuck, just so mad. Run back inside. She's still just like foaming at the mouth, barking at me. At this point, I really don't know what to do. So I grabbed a knife out of the kitchen drawer, ran out back of our house or whatever. I got this knife because I'm just like, fuck, man, fuck, fuck, fuck. So I'm running through the woods. I finally find a spot where I'm like, all right, even if she runs out here, she can't find me. Pull out the knife. I start going to town on myself. For me, self-harm was like, it was almost like getting high. You know what I mean? Like it would be the equivalent of like smoking a joint or something. It's definitely psychological. I can't explain the inner happenings of it, but you would just sit there in this kind of absent-minded bliss. So I'm just sitting there like under a tree, super peaceful from the thing I just came from like 10 minutes ago. I'm now listening to birds, and like the sun's out. It's like April, so it's super beautiful, and I'm just sitting there with train track marks on my arm, and I'm just like in this just disassociated bliss. And probably an hour goes by. I finally snap out of it. There's been times in past now, but at that time there would be moments in my future where it was like, oh my God, like I am gonna bleed out if I don't fucking, do something about this. But at this point, it wasn't like that. But like I definitely, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I'm losing blood basically. And I'm 14, 13, so I'm like, all right, like I don't want to die, man. Like I'm fucking young. So I go back to the house. I'm still bleeding. I got a ton of marks on my arm. We had a back sliding door. I go through or I come back through that door, and my mom's just standing there with with our fucking dare officer. Yeah, like the guy that, a year ago was like, if you smoke pot, not only are you going to hell. So he's sitting at my kitchen table with my mom. My mom's like crying and all this stuff. And then like the second I come in, I'm just like, what? And then whatever transpires, because I'm still like just losing my mind. I can't believe what took place. I can't believe what's happening. Like two other cops come in through my front door, and
Mm.
I get fucking arrested for property damage for kicking over the pot on my front porch. I also got dangerous weapon, whatever, but because I had the knife on me from self-harming, they were like, "Oh, you were gonna kill your mom or some shit." And I was like, "No, she was trying to kill me and slamming me in walls and stuff." And I'm just like, "Okay, like sure, whatever. Let's go to jail now." And technically this isn't even like the first attempt, or it's craziness obviously, but what I consider the actual attempt is when I actually didn't go to a psych ward right away. Like obviously once I was arrested they were like, all right, this kid's obviously fucking got some problems, this and that, because again I lived in Massachusetts. It's like the squishiest fucking state in our country.
So would it be fair to say that in many ways Massachusetts is very liberal or progressive?
Our policies are. Yeah. I grew up with a lot of racism, a lot of
Right.
Confederate flags flying.
What was the real attempt then, if that wasn't it?
Like I said, for some reason I didn't end up in a psych ward. They brought me to like this weird, like behavioral halfway house. Like I was chilling with people who were, dual diagnosis. But then there was also people there who like other poor kids that just, they grew up in poverty. So, they're there because the system, that's their only option. So it's like, it was weird. It was weird. And there wasn't like psychiatrists, there wasn't therapists. It was all just kind of like volunteer kind of people, which in a way was cool because like, I didn't feel weird around them. Like I didn't feel like I was like institutionalized. I kind of just felt like I got sent to this like weird house with all these like interesting people.
That's how I kind of felt when I was in the hospital here. There were too many different kinds of people going through too many different kinds of things on one floor where I was, right? But by and large, yeah, the other patients were it was kind of nice.
Yeah, everyone has shit to say about our mental health care
Yeah.
system. I spoke too soon. What you just stated is a more accurate assessment of that. Because, like, for one awesome person in a psych ward, there's also like three that are like, all right, I need to avoid this person because if I don't, they're gonna like hurt me. You know what I mean? Which again, I get. I'm a fucking straight white dude. I'm nothing but angry. You know what I mean? So yeah. So my first attempt was actually at this weird behavioral halfway house. I tried hanging myself in my room because we all had our own rooms or whatever. What is it? They didn't do like 15-minute checks like they do in psych wards, but they do like I think it was like every like hour or so, like during the night. It wasn't super late. Like our bedtime was like at 9. So this was probably like 12 because I'm also an insomniac. I can't sleep. I take medications. Without them, I would not be able to sleep. I was just up ruminating, like, okay, what the fuck happened? My mom tried to kill me. I got arrested. I'm now in this weird halfway house with people I've never met before. They're being nicer to me than my own family. They also come from places that people in my immediate area like bastardized.
Mm.
I was the only white kid there, straight up, like, and I grew up in racist fucking Massachusetts where people are totally cool with just wearing Confederate flags like it's fucking 1865 or some bullshit. So I'm just like, what the fuck happened, man? Like, it just flipped me on my head because not only did I feel this huge sense of alienation from my family, but I also felt this huge sense of relatability with the people there. And to this day, it fucks me up. And I'm actually really ashamed of where I come from. Fuck racism, fuck sexism, fuck all that shit. And like, but that was nothing. That was everything that was my childhood. My mom from day one was telling me if I'm not the fucking, millionaire hotshot big guy, then I'm going to live in a fucking box and no one's going to love me. And then you also go to school and you got all your fucking stupid racist friends being like making like so many racist jokes. A lot of my anger stems from where I came from
Right.
because, again, going to this place and having such love from people who never met me before, I'm the demographic that's putting them in jail, fucking, shooting them in the street just for fucking, having a blinker out. Like, I'm that demographic. I'm a straight white dude, and I'm from fucking straight white racist America. I'm just so like, oh my God, like I can't believe this is happening and I can't believe this is taking place. So I'm thinking all this shit. I grabbed my belt and I had a fan in my room. So I tied the fucking thing, the belt and everything to the fan, got my little like desk chair that I had because we had desks in there too. And I tried to do the whole like, suicide through fucking hanging thing. Obviously it didn't work because I'm here. And honestly, it was a pretty pathetic attempt. I remember like dangling and just being like, "Oh, this ain't gonna fucking kill me." Like, like I need some industrial strength kind of shit. But that was the most like psychologically sitting in it. Most of my other attempts is just like something happened, I reacted, and I did something stupid to myself.
I want to go back for a second, then I want to back forth, back forth. So you tried, did you fall off or someone find you?
No, I was just dangling. It was so weak. I was like, this isn't gonna do shit.
All right,
Like,
so you came down.
yeah,
How long were you in that place for?
about like 2 weeks or so.
You go back home and you're 13 years old or whatever, 14 years old. Like, how long are you there until you leave your house and like you're gone?
So I started not staying at home probably around like 15 or so. I eventually moved out of my mom's house like at 16. I lived at various friends' houses and stuff like that. Yeah, I got the fuck out of there. I was like, yo, I don't care if you birthed me, you suck. You're fucking crazy. I hate this town. I hate where I live. I want out of this. I just want out. Total little other side note. I found kinship and friends and family through music. You can see I have long hair and I have pentagrams on my wall, so I like guitars and stuff.
You play guitar?
Yeah, I'm a musician. I got drums and guitars all over back there.
Do you play a lot often?
Yeah, I'm trying to do the whole make music, do something with it.
I think a lot of people in their lives never find the one thing.
It's crazy because like I've always wanted to do that even before all this craziness. But again, my mom just being such an erratic person. Hey mom, I want to play guitar. You'll never be good at that. You should. And I'm like, oh shit.
Truly no judgment. I'm just curious. Do you
Sure.
finish high school?
Yeah, I finished high school. I don't know how. Slept and did drugs and all this shit. Like I did not pay attention at all. And I didn't want to pay attention. I kind of knew that like our education was just bullshit. Again, at that point I'd experienced culture clash like in that little halfway house and a lot earlier than a lot of people in my youth. I just didn't give a shit about school, man.
You got out of school. What did you do? So you're 28 now, right?
Correct.
18 to 28. How would you characterize those years? Where are you? What are you doing? Are you ideating a lot? How often are you trying? However you define that.
Ideating is a constant thing. It's never stopped. I still ideate to this day. I mean, fuck, I was ideating earlier. Like, work sucks, man.
What do you do when you get out of high school what are those 10 years like?
Nomadic for a little bit, like a lot of late adolescents or young adults. I was trying to find why. I was just trying to find answers for what had happened to me and why things happen the way they are. So I spent a lot of time living with friend to friend, sometimes homeless, living in the car or whatever. I had jobs, but like it was never like I'm gonna, get an apartment or a place with this. It was just like, all right, I need money for weed and I need to put gas in my car. I mainly had part-time jobs and I was just focused on trying to find answers for what the fuck happened to me. So I indulged in substances, hippie drugs. I did so much acid and so much hallucinogenics.
Mhm.
I've never done cocaine. I've never done heroin. I'm not really a partier, honestly. I just was looking for answers. And again, we grow up in a culture where, like, if you smoke weed, you're supposed to be like this guru, or at least that's how it was when I was growing up. The one kid wearing a Tool shirt knew, like, things you just didn't know. And I dabbled in other, like, things too, like spiritualism and stuff like that. No organized anything. I do not like religion. I don't worship anything. I don't do nothing. I just think people are people and we live on a finite planet and people should be nice to each other.
All right. That was a pretty good way to summarize those years. And you said you tried a bunch of times. You cut for a long time.
I gotta also clarify, during all this, like, hippie stuff, I'm also crying my eyes out all the time. I'm cutting myself. I'm hitting myself. I'm getting into fights with past friends, verbal.
Yeah, yeah.
Lot of attempts in this, nomadic hippie
Right.
area.
Was it cutting or hanging? Was there a new method, another method?
Hanging was the only time I ever tried hanging myself was that time.
You try another way at some point?
No, because that one time I was like, this isn't gonna do it.
You say you tried several times in the years after.
Other ways, yeah, it was never hanging. Mainly cutting. Sometimes like I mentioned earlier, I would just repeatedly smack my head against stuff, literally like the wall or a
Hmm.
table, hit myself, fists and everything. I've given myself so many concussions, I can't. That's another thing I can't count. I'm terrified of heights, so I will never jump off anything. I hate guns, and I'm pretty sure legally I can't even get one because I'm so institutionalized that they won't give it to me, which is cool because I don't want it. And
And just to be clear here, I might cut this out of the podcast. I don't know. Is it always on the wrists or do you ever go somewhere else?
it's all over. I mean, I got scars on my neck, scars on my legs, my chest.
Do you said when you were 13, 14, you're like, I'm too young. I don't really want to die. Do you feel that way now?
Yes and no. I mean, I think people with extreme depression and ideation, I mean, statistically, it is a fact. Like, if you attempt suicide, you are more likely to attempt suicide again.
Why do you think that is? Well,
You
that's a weird stat though, because it's implying that the reason for your second attempt is the first attempt, but it's like, no, the
mental health
reason
system
no, but
sucks.
the reason for the second attempt is the same reason for the first attempt. So it's more not correlation over causation, but I think it's a little bit of a bizarre, accurate, but not particularly telling stat. Let me leave it at that.
Fair enough. You're almost like a mental health journalist.
I think in a way, I'm trying to balance like reporting and advocacy, and it's a tricky balance.
Yeah.
Okay, back to you, Craig. More or less, how many times have you been in an actual psych unit where you stayed at least one night?
In between 7 and 15, I'd say. Like, I got approved for disability. I'm legally crazy.
What is
So
the actual diagnosis? They didn't put crazy on there.
it might as well, because it's like with the amount of diagnosis I've got, I have just as much of a clue as I did before I was ever diagnosed. Because, you get smacked with everything. I've been
Yeah.
bipolar. I've been bipolar 2. I've been schizophrenic. I've been schizoaffective. I've been borderline. I've been antisocial personality. Everything. PTSD, like everything. It feels
So
like every doctor has a different diagnosis, but it's all bullshit. Like, you look at the DSM-5, it's the same little description you get when you Google it. So I'm like over here going crazy because my life sucks and I don't know why the fuck that all this crazy shit's happening in my life. And these people are like, oh, okay, well, you said this, so maybe it's that. I mean, I know like there's more DSMs now or whatever, but like, that actually happened. Like, my psychiatrist many years ago, one of many psychiatrists, like got up to go to the bathroom during one of our meetings, and I took the book and flipped it, like the one she was looking at. And I'm just like, motherfucker, this is the exact same definition I read on Google, like on my way here. Like, it's not even like a paragraph. It's just like two sentences.
have you ever gotten a diagnosis that you think might be accurate or was ever accurate, or is it all just like no way?
Trauma, so PTSD, generalized anxiety, and clinical depression, I think is just kind of accurate.
Of all the stays in the hospital, did you ever have an experience that you can recall that was positive?
Like I said earlier, with the people, that's where you get most of your therapy from, is just talking to people who also just have no purpose in that immediate setting. I've made a lot of friends through psych wards and outpatient programs and stuff like that.
And are you on meds? You said you take meds to sleep.
Yep, I take Seroquel, it's an antipsychotic, and I take Wellbutrin for depression. And I'm not like advocating for anything, but I also smoke marijuana like it's nobody's business.
When was the last time that you tried to end your life? And is that connected to you trying to find a podcast on suicide?
No, trying to find you. I mean, I was just depressed at work Monday. Like, I don't want to be here. The job I have now, and honestly, I hate to talk shit about it because like it's honestly like awesome compared to a lot of other jobs I've had. But yeah, man, I want to play guitar. Like, I want to play drums. I want to play music. I want to make people think and feel. Like, I don't want to sit in a factory and I work on a line, but reality, I'm just in my own little room messing around with little things and putting them together. So it's better than a lot of other jobs I've had. Yeah.
Why did you move from Massachusetts to Rhode Island recently?
So this actually ties into my last attempt.
Oh,
In Massachusetts from 2018 to 2022, I had my own apartment. And that was my first ever apartment that I had. COVID hit. I'm single, even with 40 plus hours. I mean, come on, this is America. Nobody makes enough money unless you're
yeah.
making the money. So I'm struggling. I can barely make rent. I can barely buy food. COVID happens. I get a roommate because I just can't afford it. Funny, not funny, whatever you want to think about it. I used to work at a weed factory prior to this job, and I had that job for 3 years. I lost my job at this marijuana factory that I had from 2018 to 2021 due to just stress and being alone. I mean, at this point in my life, I wasn't talking to anyone in my family. I
Mm-hmm.
still don't. I was going through bad relationship after bad relationship.
Hang on, hold up. What are you, a player? Relationship after relationship after relationship? I think it's interesting. Not surprised, I just want clarification.
My girlfriend says I'm cute, so I live with it. If we're being real, that's the reason. Because, dude, I was not approachable. I was like, if you're a human, fuck you. Don't talk to me. My mom tried to fucking kill me. I've had a shitty life. I don't want to talk to anybody. I play guitar and I got long hair or some stupid shit. I don't know. I'm just existing. And these people are, and again, when I say like unhealthy relationships, like your vibe attracts your tribe. So I'm walking around being like with middle fingers up to the world. So I'm attracting that, So I'm having these relationships with people who just want to fucking just everything to just be leveled, and it just destroy everything. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
relationships, and you scientifically speaking, you model what you know. And my mom's super aggressive. These girls, or whatever, these relationships I'm having, always committed. I've never had like one night stand. Sex is gross.
I think that's the first time anyone has outwardly said that on this podcast.
I have my reasons to think that, but like, yeah, people don't fucking touch me. Keep hands to yourself.
Take us through the COVID and what happens, and then the attempt, and then moving.
Roommate gets in. Roommate has lots of issues, drug dependency, aggression. So we only last as long as we did. I'm surprised we last as long as we did. He couldn't keep a job. At this point, I had lost my job, gotten back on disability. So I was the only one in this, one bedroom apartment who had a job, or not a job, but had a source of income.
Mm-hmm.
And on disability, you don't make enough. I mean, you don't make enough to live. You make enough to pay rent, and then you have like $40 a week to spend on groceries. I'm like taking care of everything. We eventually get evicted. He's just not pulling his weight. What led me to attempt, I haven't really habitually cut since 2021. So it's been a long while for me. And even this attempt, I didn't cut. But I entered, and the reason why I call it an attempt is because I was so stressed out that like I was in a state of psychosis. I was stress-induced psychosis, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I literally called the cops on myself. And I was like in a monotone voice, like, if you don't come here in like 5 minutes and bring me to a hospital, I'm gonna fucking blow my brains out or some shit like that. I didn't even have a gun. I was just fucking, I was so stressed out. I've never been evicted before. This person who I was living with was like basically bullying me, sending me texts being like, you're a fucking blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, dude, like, you signed up for this. Why are you, whatever. So I try to admit myself. This is like hospital rodeo number 13, 14. I don't even know. So at this point, I finally get to the hospital after, the cops show up and I get taken away and all this stuff. And then I instantly snap out of it. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do this again. I do not want to go to a fucking psych ward. And obviously, not even in the psych ward yet. I'm just in like the suicide prevention room. It's just brick walls and maybe you get a TV, maybe a window. Most of the time it's just brick. I wasn't even in that yet. People were already giving me shit. Like, oh my God, another fucking suicide attempt. Like, I'm like, motherfucker, like, you're a professional and you're giving me shit for wanting to kill myself. Like, fuck you. It's actually funny because this is the only time I was actually able to get out. I didn't go. It wasn't until the psychiatrist showed up and like started to evaluate me where I was like, all right, dude, look, like my roommate sucks. Like, I'm getting evicted. I might owe like 3+ grand because my roommate is irresponsible. I was just freaking out. Like, I haven't self-harmed. I haven't done anything. I didn't take anything. Like, I am just so fucking stressed out. And he actually heard me out.
All right.
Yeah.
So how does that connect to moving to Rhode Island?
I was going to be homeless again. I haven't owned a vehicle since I got this apartment because I had to sell my car to afford the apartment. So I started dating my girlfriend now at the beginning of 2021
In Massachusetts.
in Massachusetts.
How did you meet?
From Tinder, the internet.
So over 2 years then, 2 years or so.
Yeah, and she's from Rhode Island. She grew up here. Yeah, so that is why I am currently living here. We got an apartment together. It just kind of worked out. Well, realistically, we didn't want to get an apartment together because we're both very kind of like emotionally responsible. We were like, okay, we've only been dating for like a little over a year. Like, you're amazing, you're awesome, you're everything, but like, I want this to work. So like, let's get our own places and see how it goes. But that was just out of the question. I couldn't fucking afford it. I was still on disability. Like, I tried to get a loan just for like 3 grand to throw down on a first, last, or whatever. They were just like, you can't get a loan. You're on disability. And I'm just like, well, fuck. My girlfriend is amazing as a person she is. She was like, all right, this is an extreme circumstance. I mean, she saw everything with me and my roommate. So she was like, she knew what I was dealing with. You know what I mean? So she was like, all right, we need to get you out of there. We need to get you away from him. Getting our own places is just not, it's just not feasible. She, just being the amazing person that she was just like, hey, you know what? I know we said that we didn't want to rush things or move into a place, but like, if we don't do this, you're going to be out on the street. So I'm just like, okay, fine. So that's why I'm in Rhode Island.
Okay. Got it. I've got a few more questions. Ready? Here we go. Do you wish any of your prior suicide attempts had worked?
Some days yes, some days no.
How many people in the world do you have to talk with about difficult things?
2.
Who's the other one?
My buddy Colin, my only real true friend. He just gets it.
Where is he?
Massachusetts still.
What is one thing you do that other people might view as kind of healthy that you do to cope? I think I know the answer.
Music. I mean, I'm not a quote unquote professional, but I've written and recorded over 100 songs.
Who is your favorite band?
System of a Down, Devin Townsend. God, there's so many, man, and there's so many different reasons.
Different.
Okay, so for all the goths out there, Typo Negative.
Are you more intrigued or attracted to the lyrics or the music?
Both. I do everything. Like, I am a one-man band. I do the vocals, I sing, I play guitar, bass, drums, mix it all. So that is my lifeblood. Yeah, that's me. That's where I want to exist all the time. I love the energy. And I'm sure lots of people who listen to this podcast share this thing, whether it's with extreme music or not, but it gets you out of your head.
Yeah. What would be one thing you would say to somebody, not about suicide, by the way, this isn't about suicide, who wanted to learn a little bit more about music, maybe learn an instrument? What would be like the first piece of advice you might give?
You can do it. It's not nearly as hard as you think. Music is not a competition. I can't stress that enough. Music is not a competition. If you get pleasure of playing one note and letting it ring out, that's all you need. Some other people need to play sweep arpeggios and stuff to get their
Wish I knew what that meant, but okay. This is the weirdest question I'll ask today. No idea why I'm so intrigued by this. The belt that you used to attempt, do you still have it?
No, but I still have the same kind of belts. It sells like late 2000s, like Union Bay. It doesn't lock in. Like, it's kind of just like a rope. Like, it's not, there's no like buckle or anything like that. You just kind of tie it. So yeah.
Any myths around any of this stuff you want to dispel? And I know you probably have several, especially when we branch out into other things around politics and religion, but kind of keep it simple if you can.
This should have been like the whole podcast.
I know, but that's a different podcast.
Our healthcare system is so screwed up. You can meet and talk to so many professionals and still have no idea. I'm talking to the suicide attempt survivors here. I'm not talking to anybody else.
Sure.
You can have the whole world against you. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is your sanity, your life, and your existence. Life sucks. Life's difficult. There's not a lot of things in life that I can say like, yeah, that's cool. You know what I mean? But we're here. Might as well make the best of it. That's really it.
Is there a
I
myth?
guess that's more of a statement. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you don't need a myth. I'm just wondering, is there a
No,
specific?
I mean, there's some, again, I think what
I
I'm trying
know.
to say is just like our mental health system is so fucked up. So if you get a diagnosis of depression, if you tell somebody, and if that somebody is like, well, I can't talk to you now because what if you do this? Fuck them. There's nothing wrong with you. You have a diagnosis. This is how I want to sum it up. I always give this analogy.
Sure.
Would your family abandon you if you had asthma?
Yours would.
Probably. But most families, if your kid starts coughing and have a coughing fit, they're not going to kick you out of the house. Just the fact that depression is so stigmatized,
Right. Because people say, well, even in 2023, I'm like,
dude, fuck that. There's so okay. So
maybe it's worse than it used to be. I don't even know. Maybe it's gotten worse.
mental health is like it's corporate mental health. You know what I mean? It's designed to make you be able to show up to work and do what you got to do and keep you on the clock because they don't want you. Because I had to fight and fight and fight to just get disability. Dude, you get like less than $1,000 a month. And I know after, especially listening to your podcast, that it's not just here in America, it's all over the place. The myth I really want to dispel is that there's nothing wrong with us. There's not. We have an illness, but it's no different than if someone had asthma. It doesn't matter that people can't see it. It doesn't matter that most people don't know how to address it. Like a lot of people, I can only talk to one or two people about this. And even in that that circle or that, conversational connection, there's still like hesitation.
Have you lost people to suicide?
I've lost so many friends to suicide and overdoses and stuff like that. And I'm only 28, man. Like, I've been to more, not even official funerals, because none of my friends can afford that shit. I've been to more, like, ceremonial, like, wakes than I can fucking count, you know? Like, it's horrible.
How are How are these people dying?
Suicide.
How many people have you lost to suicide? If you're having a hard time counting, that's telling.
I know a lot of dead people.
It's interesting because obviously I've got some years on you, but I only know a couple people.
You can tell just by after talking to me for an hour. I have very specific standards. So I only tend to associate with people. I mean, I guess you could call it an echo chamber, but like I only like to hang out with people who get it. You know, I don't want to hang out with people that like if I'm like depressed one day, they're going to be like, "What?" Like,
yeah, of course.
My buddy Colin, he gets it. If I'm depressed, he's just like, "Hey, man, you're not any different. I don't think of you any different." You know what I mean? And so like,
be more like Colin, people.
Be more like Colin, people. He's a great dude. He's a chemist, and he's trying to he's trying to help save the planet with science.
There's one question that I always ask that I didn't ask. Yeah. Are you making it to 30?
Yeah. I mean, I'm working on an album, man. I got 17 songs.
Wow.
I'm tracking right now. I mean, no one's waiting on it. Fucking.
And there's no like studio
I mean, this is the studio, man. That's another myth. If you want to be a musician, just release it independently. Music business sucks.
If I followed up with you in a year plus, you'd be around?
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, I say probably because I'm very irrational. You know, I don't plan anything.
Right. Yeah.
Something could happen. My girlfriend could die, you know, like Colin could die or lose my hearing. Anything could happen. That could send me into a spiral. But I'm hoping that I live because I want to fucking be around for my girlfriend and I want to help people through music because music's helped me. So I want to stick around for that aspect. Honestly, making it to 30, I'm actually turning 29 like in 3 days or something.
368 or so days to go.
Yeah, so I have a feeling I'll probably make it.
What else would you like to share?
Okay, total opposite of morbid. This is the hippie coming out. Love is the most important thing. Quantity is not nearly as important as quality. You know, I'll take having my lonely little world of just my girlfriend and my best friend, who I never see and lives, you know, X amount of hours away from me. I will rather have that than a superficial family, a superficial group of coworkers, or any of that stuff that most people think they need to have. You gotta love yourself. I mean, it's weird. Like I hear a lot of people on the podcast say like they don't love themselves. I don't struggle with that. I mean, maybe I'm a egotistical crazy person, but I think I'm pretty cool. You know, I'm not an asshole. I don't like do anything, you know, I want everyone to succeed. I want everyone to be happy. I was sold such a perfect image of how the world was when I was a kid. I want that world to actually be like that, you know, where everyone gets along and nobody's poor and nobody starts wars or anything like that, or nobody gives people shit for feeling suicidal. I just want everyone to be okay. And I want everybody to understand the love that you do have in your life, even if it's just you, that's so important. And you have to hold on to that because if you don't, fuck, man. But hey, I remember what I blanked out earlier on. I was going to say individual because we were joking about you being a mental health journalist and all this stuff. And
Journalist or advocate, where do I draw the line? Right.
yeah, you are so essential. You are the person actually making change. It ain't politicians. Right. It ain't fucking doctors. It's the people on the ground doing the work that eventually it trickles down to the people who can make change. You are providing a platform for people to just lay it all out there.
Right, exactly. That's it.
That's so beautiful, though. What you're doing is so beautiful. I mean, you're doing what I ultimately want to do with music, and I'm sure I can kind of speak for all the people that listen to this. We just appreciate the shit out of you, man. Stuff is just, you can't talk about it.
You can't talk about it. I mean, you can talk about it, but you gotta get lucky, right? There are therapists out there. For example, you just have to find the right therapist because they're out there. This is bullshit. I have to risk my license to have a real conversation, which is their fault, but I'm willing to do it. They're out there. That's like, you got to find that fucking person, but they're not easy to find.
I had a really good therapist for many years, but he was amazing. He was a real person. So they are out there to anybody who's thinking about getting therapy and kind of hesitant. As much shit as I talk, do it. Do the meds. Don't take everything that they give you. I was on lithium for so many years, and that shit fucked me up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Fucked me up. Proceed with caution, but it's better than, as Colin says, raw dog in life. You don't want to do that. You don't want to just be wandering around going crazy all the time. You can't, because if you're not going to live.
Right, and if we've learned one thing from all this, we can both agree, just listen to Colin. That's all you got to do.
He knows what's up, man. Find your calling.
Play your music, my friend, and I'll touch base with you soon.
John, take it easy, man. Thank you so much for everything you do, and enjoy your night.
Thanks, man. You too. Take care.
Take it easy, bud.
As always, thanks so much for listening and all of your support, and special thanks to Craig up in Rhode Island. Thank you, Craig. If you are a suicide attempt survivor and you'd like to talk, please reach out. hello@suicidenoted.com, on Facebook or Twitter @suicidenoted. Check the show notes for all kinds of other ways you can get involved and participate, including our membership. It's got some perks and we could use the support. And if you listen on Apple Podcasts, please rate Suicide Noted. It helps people find this podcast, and we really do want more people to find it. Remember, our main goal, help people feel a little less shitty and a little less alone. We appreciate your support. Really, we do. And that is all for episode number 165. Stay strong. Do the best you can. I'll talk to you soon.